18 months after revelation of the Daleks, Doctor Who finally returned with the trial of a Time Lord. At 14 episodes, it was the longest story yet. Luckily, it can be broken down into 4 separate parts, so that's how I will be looking at it over the next few weeks. The first 4 episodes are known as The Mysterious Planet. It begins very strongly, with a long model shot of a space station that still looks very impressive, and may have influenced the opening credits of Star Trek Deep Space Nine a few years later. Hopefully the footage gets reused in later stories, as it seems a bit of a waste otherwise. The interior of the station is a decent set, thankfully, as we'll be seeing it for the entire season. This is where we meet the new supporting cast. Linda Bellingham is the Inquisitor, like a stern-head mistress keeping order throughout the trial. And Michael Jaston plays the Valeyard. Icy and bitter, he makes a great villain. The two of them play it admirably straight, while the Doctor mocks the proceedings at every opportunity. Even though it's a very serious trial and his life is at stake, it's hard to take seriously when the Doctor just jokes his way through it. The first 3 stories are all told in flashback as evidence for the trial. It's an interesting device, very much ahead of its time, and it works a bit like Gogglebox, or Behind the Sofa on the Blu-rays, showing a bit of the action and then cutting away to characters commenting on it. The writers take the opportunity to comment on the media's portrayal of Doctor Who over the past few years. The Inquisitor's complaints about excessive violence echo what the media was saying about the previous few seasons of the show. However, it does spoil any sense of jeopardy, as the viewers know that the Doctor survives all these events in order to appear at the trial. Peri's fate still remains a mystery. It would have been interesting if they just put her in jeopardy every single week in order to keep the viewers guessing as to what might have happened to her. The Doctor and Peri's relationship here is immediately better than it was last season. There's no more arguing, they're very warm and affectionate towards each other, which mirrors how the actors seem to be in real life. It's a definite improvement, it's just a shame we only get it for the one story, as I seem to remember things are very different next time. I guess the Big Finish audio starring the two might fill in the gap and show how that relationship developed. Glitz and Dibber show up next, played by Tony Selby and Glenn Murphy. I remember Glitz being just a lovable rogue, but the first thing he does here is trying to kill the Doctor, which was a surprise. I guess they're meant to be morally ambiguous, and it is quite fun to have a pair who are on nobody's side but their own. And they do make a very entertaining duo. Robert Holmes is clearly in his comfort zone waiting for them, and their scenes are definitely a highlight of the story. Unfortunately, the main storyline is rather weak and unoriginal, with a robot subjugating an underground civilization and a more primitive tribe on the surface. It's been done countless times in Doctor Who, such as the Crotons, the Face of Evil, and this adds nothing new to the mix. The robot Drathro is an impressive size, but not really threatening enough for a character everybody treats as the main villain. And his 2 Brainiac assistants are just like slightly older versions of the twins from the Twin Dilemma. At least we get Tom Chadbourne back. This time around he's playing Merdine rather than Duggan, but he gives a solid likeable performance anyway. On the primitive side, we get Joan Sims as Queen Katrika. She's mainly known for her comedy roles in the Carry On movies and sitcoms like On the Up. Here she tries to play it straight, but just comes off as rather shouty and one-dimensional. It's another example of John Nathan Turner's stunt casting, and not one of the more successful. There's a lot of repetitive running around between the 2 locations, and people being captured by one side or another, before the ending where all the antagonists kill each other off, so it's all very predictable. There are hints of an interesting backstory involving the 3 sleepers from Andromeda, but this is kept very much in the background. I think they come back to it in the finale, but by then most viewers would have forgotten about it. I certainly did at the time. The DVD has about an hour of extra features. There's a 25-minute making-of documentary. Eric Saywood tells how the idea for the season came about. Colin Baker says he was not a fan of the idea. We get to see the memo that Jonathan Powell, the head of BBC Drama, sent, with a lot of criticisms about the script, which were all justified if you ask me. We also see the space station model being built, and there are contributions from Michael Jason and Tony Selby before their deaths. So hopefully we get to see more of them in the next few documentaries. There are 8 minutes of deleted scenes, mostly more courtroom stuff, but we do get to see the Doctor and Peri arriving on Ravalox in the pouring rain, which explains why the Doctor was using his umbrella. A 14-minute clip from Wogan has appearances from Mandrel and the Sea Devil, plus interviews with Colin Baker and Linda Bellingham. It's all very light and fluffy, the same thing that you would get nowadays on the One Show. We also get a clip from Blue Peter, in which Janet Hills' father brings on the Drathro robot as well as the L1, and there's appearances from Colin Baker and Bonnie Langford in costume, so maybe they were filming in the next studio at the time. Finally, a clip from Points of View as Anne Robinson introducing viewer reactions to the new series, most of which are quite positive, but there are some complaints about the theme tune, which I don't mind. Overall, it's a mixed bag. There are some improvements from last year, but the storyline is not one of Robert Holmes' best. I'll give it 5 out of 10. Next week, Mind Warp. That's an odd story. I'm not sure if I figured out which parts were real and which were fake at the time, so let's see if I can do it now. Subscribe if you want to see what I think of it, and I'll see you next time.